can I just say one thing firstly? I love the name Eat Sleep Boxing Repeat.
Welcome back to ESBR Boxing's YouTube channel. It's Niall, delighted as always to be joined by Owen, and we're here in final prediction mode for this weekend's intriguing domestic clash at the Copper Box Arena. Nearly called it the Copper Bosh there, getting caught up in the hype of it. But yeah, Kieron Conway against Gerome Warburton for the British and Commonwealth middleweight titles on the line. Yeah, very intriguing one. This bit of a kind of a must win for one of the parties, you'd imagine. We'll just probably discuss that in a minute, but yeah, Owen, it's good to have you on as always. Let's jump straight into it. No messing about. Kieron Conway, Gerome Warburton, British and Commonwealth middleweight titles. What is your final prediction for this one?
Firstly, thank you for having me as always. Tough one to predict because, like myself, like I'd imagine most people on Saturday night haven't seen anything of Gerome Warburton, so I don't really know what to expect of him. However, based off their records and having watched Kieron Conway, Conway's operate. Although he's lost a couple, he has operated at a higher level. You know, going in with the likes of Amo Williams is a million miles clear of what Warburton's ever been in with. So I'm expecting Kieron Conway to get a points victory on Saturday night. You know, Conway not exactly gifted with God-given power. Warburton, you know, he's only really fought journeyman, so it's hard to tell what level he's at. So playing it safe, I'm expecting a pretty comfortable night's work for Kieron Conway and to come out of a points decision victory.
Yeah, again, it's hard to kind of disagree with what you said there. You know, we were kind of briefly chatting off camera, and we're not overly familiar with Jerome Warburton and kind of what's pushing us. I do agree. First of all, I think Kieran Conway on points, and as we were saying off camera, purely because of the level he's fought at, a much higher level than a Jerome Warburton. You know, Conway, decent fighter. As you say, the losses to no shame in the losses to Sissoko or Amo Williams, you
Mhm.
know. But yeah, I just think mixing it at that level will be the deciding factor here. Of course, we have seen it before where, you know, the underdog has come in having not fought anybody of note and get the win. But, you know, I just until I'm proven otherwise and until a lot of people are proven otherwise, I think this is going to be a Conway points win. But yeah, I'm looking forward to see what Warburton does bring to the table. Yeah, so that's our final predictions. Anyway, we're both going for a Kieran Conway points win here in this one. Just to kind of touch on Conway, you know, we mentioned the losses, a couple of losses to good operators, Amo Williams and Sissoko. You know, what's your thoughts on kind of the ceiling of Kieran Conway? What can he achieve if he is to go on and win this, obviously? And then kind of a double-ended question, if he was to lose this, would that be the McKendry retirement gift coming out?
Um, I think it's a difficult one with Kieron Conway because he's evidently got ability, but he's had such a stop-start career. You know, in his three losses, obviously he started his career, lost to Derek Aziz quite early, started to rebuild, lost to Sissoko, as you say, no shame in that. Started to rebuild, lost to Amo Williams, no shame in that. And he's gone on a sort of win streak again, so it's a difficult one to know where his ceiling is. I expect him to win the British title. He can definitely operate above British level, but can he go above European level, anything like that? I think it remains to be seen. I think if he is to make a challenge at a higher level, I think he needs to get a string of victories together, like he is doing, probably two or three more, even after Saturday night, to try and build on that. So it's really difficult to judge Kieron Conway. Like I say, it's been such a stop-start career. Um, and if he loses on Saturday night, you have to think the Derek Aziz loss. Okay, you can brush over and say it was early in his career. You know, it was a learning fight for him. Sissoko, no shame. Amo Williams, absolutely no shame. We've seen what level he's operating at. But if he loses to a Jerome Warburton who's only been beaten journeyman, I don't think he would retire. But it's another rebuilding phase, and you have to question the desire. You know, what has he got left? What does he want out of the game? So, I think a loss for Kieron Conway on Saturday night is pretty damning. And I think he'll be taking a fair bit of time out of the game to evaluate his situation.
Yeah, it would be an absolute disaster. It'd be the biggest setback of his career so far by a long, long way. It really would. It's kind of a must win in that way. Yeah, in terms of what his ceiling is, as you say, I do expect him to win. You know, definitely British level, European level. Kind of who knows? You know that next step will be to string together victories and prove that he is capable of beating somebody on the level of a Sissoko or even an Amo Williams, those fringe world level guys. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. Just a quick one before we wrap up. A potential fight that we're hearing rumours of. George Liddard on the same card Saturday night. If Conway to come through, Liddard to come through, that's a potential fight for the future and another big domestic clash. What are your thoughts on that one? Just to round off, if that was to be next for both men.
I think, like we were saying off camera, it's a bit of a roundabout way. George Dad's fighting Aaron Sutton, who had one of the worst 16-0 records I think I've ever seen in the sport. Lost. Aaron Sutton lost to Warburton. Now Aaron Sutton's fighting Liddard. So the boxing math and the boxing chess is at itself again. I think it's difficult to call. I think dependent on how Liddard gets on. Obviously Liddard's looked good. You know, he was pretty comfy against Eric Asase, who obviously beat Kieron Conway. As I say, boxing math never works out. I think I'd probably favour Kieron Conway at this stage for the experience, depending on how Saturday night goes for both men. But as we say, although he's lost, again, it's that operating at a higher level. If George Liddard got the victory, it's a big domestic name to have on his record as he pushes on to titles. So at this time, I think I'd be looking to favour Kieron Conway. I think he would be the favourite going into that, not by much, probably very, very marginally. Again, just because of who he's been in the ring with, what level he's operated at, even when losing. So it's a really, really intriguing domestic fight. It's the domestic fights that I think we should be seeing to be filling cards for British titles, etc. So I don't know about yourself, but I think I'd favour Kieron Conway. But it's a fight I'd definitely like to see.
Yeah, definitely huge domestic clash. And again, like yourself, I think the edge in kind of levels that he's fought at would be the slight edge for Conway for me. But yeah, I'd love to see that fight next if both men come through, which we're both expecting them to. To be honest, we've both picked Kieran Conway, myself and Owen, by decision. As he takes on Gerome Warburton for the British and Commonwealth middleweight titles this Saturday night in the Copper Box Arena in London, England. Part of that huge card headlined by Fisher and Allen, the huge rematch there. So yeah, let us know what you think. Do you agree with our final predictions for this one? Are you going Conway? Are you going Warburton? Let us know what you think. Get involved down below. Please drop a like on the video. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at ESBR Boxing. We'd really appreciate it. And follow us on all social media. Owen, it was a pleasure and take care.
Cheers as always, mate.